Hello and welcome to KnightHunter Books. Today we have our December wrap-up, the last month of 2018. I had a pretty good reading month, although I read less books, but I maybe enjoyed them more.
Yeah.
This might be a trend over the past 6 months or so.
As usual, going in order of least excited to most excited. First book is Quantum Gravity Book 3 by Justina Robson, Going Under. This one, I do actually own the next two books in the series. I am starting to wonder whether to preemptively DNF them? Is that a thing? I found this a bit of a slog, if I'm honest. The series continues to have a really fun concept, but do it in such a way that I'm not finding it as engaging as I might have hoped. So again, this is a genre mashup of a series with a cyborg protagonist with an onboard necromancer who ventures into various parallel realms.
The first book I'm going to talk about is Arrival by Ted Chiang, also known as Stories of Your Life and Others. It's a short story collection that actually we both finished this month, although in truth we've been reading it for pretty much the whole of 2018.
I've not read a single word.
No, we have a fun tradition of anytime we're on a long car journey, I will tend to read, both of us, a story as we go, which makes the time pass. However, in general, there are not that many stories in here, which means that they're quite long, which didn't work especially well.
Novelettes.
Yeah, lots of novelettes. So I rated this overall 3.5 stars. So it's pretty good. I would recommend it. As with all short story collections, there were some better than others, but I think I rated all of them in between 3 and 3.75. So none were terrible. A few meh. None amazing though, or none that kind of were enough my sort of thing. Generally tend to be more on the sci-fi side, although there were a few plays with fantasy. Actually, one of my favourite stories was based on the idea if angels and divine cataclysms were real, how would that change the world? Which was completely unexpected and a lot of fun, although also depressing.
Yes.
So lots of fun ideas of how tech would impact the world as well. So would recommend if this sounds like your sort of thing.
Next up is Interworld by Neil Gaiman and Michael Reaves. This is a kind of fun, pretty by the numbers YA. The protagonist is a young man from a reality not unlike our own. However, he comes to be aware of an ongoing multi-dimensional war between extreme ends of basically the fantasy and sci-fi spectrum. There's a fantasy world that is slowly infecting all the others with magic and witchcraft, and a tech world that is slowly taking over worlds and introducing advanced technology. When I say by the numbers, if you're going to read something like this, personally I'd say read In Other Lands. In this, you have a traditional Western trouble with authority protagonist who keeps on breaking the rules and gets away with it, which, I don't know, it can be fun to read, but didn't seem as original as the setup.
My next one is a non-fiction. I've been having an amazing non-fiction year this year. This is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay, Secret Diaries of a Junior Doctor. I really liked this and I rated it 4.25 stars. It is in equal parts hilarious and harrowing.
And grim. I mostly got read the grim bits.
Yeah. This is mostly a series of very small anecdotes, stretching over 7 or 8 years, I think. So very easy to kind of flick through and read while other things are going on. So a lot of the stories are about essentially silly things that patients do. He spends most of his time working in a labour ward and in kind of obs-gynae, so those stories can be grim. But kind of layered in between all those stories, what you really get to see is how being a junior doctor affects his life. So this is quite particular to the NHS in the UK. But yeah, the hours are terrible, the pay is terrible, the things he has to miss out on, the relatives he has to disappoint, the relationships that crumble. Yeah, eventually he gets out of it and writes a best-selling book, so it's got a happy ending in that regard. But it's innately political. I really enjoyed it just for actually understanding a bit more about that huge medical system.
Well, it's one of the largest employers in the world, the NHS.
Yeah, and it does leave you feeling very thankful to our doctors and what they sacrifice for the job, but would not recommend for the squeamish.
So, a bit of retro SF. This is Richard Morgan's Broken Angels, the sequel to Altered Carbon. Altered Carbon I read back in the Cretaceous era, you know, tablets of stone. And while I didn't remember the book very well, I have recently watched the Netflix series. So this jumped out to the TBR where it's been languishing for a while since I picked it up cheap at some point. It's enjoyable, hard-baked SF. It feels a lot less political than the adaptation of Altered Carbon. This book is military SF rather than the detective noir story of Altered Carbon. The main conceit of this universe is that human memory and experience is encoded in real time into what's known as a cortical stack, a computer that sits in your brainstem. Should your sleeve die, your body, then you can be rehoused in another sleeve, another body.
If you're rich enough.
If you're rich enough. Otherwise you end up in the graveyard stacks. So at one point the protagonist is recruiting a group of mercenaries, and his employer buys kilos and kilos of these cortical stacks because you never know if you re-sleeve somebody, they're going to be completely screaming insane because they died in agony. So, not necessarily today's cutting-edge science fiction, but enjoyable enough, and quite fast-paced considering the length.
I like the idea of finishing series in the same year I started them, so I'm very pleased to have finished the Machineries of Empire series by Yoon Ha Lee. This is the third book, Revenant Gun. If you've watched our recent videos, then you'll know that I really loved the first one and found the second one a bit more difficult to get into. I'm pleased to say this one was much closer to the first book. In particular, the point of view shifts in between each of the books, and I really enjoyed the characters in this one. It also had quite a strong sense of structure and where it was going. I knew that this was the final book, so I was very interested to see where it all ended up. This book is set in a kind of far future space empire where technology is essentially driven by magic.
I think in World they describe it as weird quantum effects and, observers being required to observe certain things.
Yes. So a very fun mix-up of kind of hard science fiction and fantasy.
Yeah, any advanced technology.
Yes, it's almost at that point where it loops back round.
From the third book in a series to the ninth in a series, this is the Labyrinth Index by Charles Stross. If you've tried the Laundry Files and liked them, then you'll probably continue to like them. Though at this point in the series, they've now significantly diverged from reality. If you need an escape from the horror of English politics into one where evil has a postcode, even if it is an elder god, and you can just go over and punch it in the face, then this might offer a welcome relief.
As a spoiler to our Christmas haul, which will be coming up soon, I did get Monstress Volume 3 for Christmas, which I was very pleased about, and then proceeded to read it within a few days. This series continues to be amazing. It's by Marjorie and Sana Takeda. The artwork is beautiful. The stakes, if anything, are higher in this book, and there's a really nice kind of undertone story following some refugees, and most of it's set in a kind of refugee camp. although one that has been established for a while, which is something a bit different and something I think we don't see enough of in fantasy.
Yes, you see epic conflicts. You don't see what happens to the civilians.
Yeah.
Finally, something quite different, not least because it's not a sequel. This is The Prince and the Dressmaker by Wang. This is a beautiful middle grade graphic about a prince who is under pressure to marry, but all he wants to do is explore the bright lights of Paris wearing beautiful dresses. He achieves this with the help of a dressmaker who he quickly befriends. However, this puts him in a difficult position. While she is making the name of his alter ego by producing stunning dresses, as long as he keeps his identity a secret, then he has to keep her identity a secret too, stopping her from pursuing her dreams. This made me laugh, cry, it's just lovely. So it goes proudly on the pile of middle grade graphic novels, which apparently I'm starting a collection of.
So if you've read any of those, then do let us know what your thoughts were. In particular, any books in the Justina Robson series would be very good to know if they're worth DNFing before even starting. Or let us know how your December reading has gone.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you again soon.